Welcome back to another episode of Main Street Success Stories. I'm your host, Jennifer Koch. Today, I have a delightful interview with Stacy Sloan. She's the founder of Three Little Birds Granola. She takes us through her journey of culinary school to creating a green label, allergen-free granola that has expanded into K through 12 food service markets across multiple states. Her business started out as a hobby, and she candidly discusses the challenges of starting like that, the fear she faced of feeling like she didn't know enough about business, what she learned along the way, and what is next for her. It is a very inspiring story, sure to just give you that boost that you need to keep growing. So I invite you to listen in to Stacy's story. Welcome to the Main Street Success Stories podcast. I'm your host, Jennifer Koch. I've been a business owner for about 25 years, and now I'm a business coach. I actually turned my first business into a franchise and successfully sold it after owning and operating it for 20 years. I prioritize building a business while also building a life and love working with the creative entrepreneur. I mostly work with emerging business owners who desire growth. They are in their first 5 years of the journey and want a plan that's going to help them succeed for years to come. They're tired of not getting paid enough, feel stuck, and want more for their business and family. If you are a business owner and you're feeling stressed about how to attract more customers, you have a really good sales month, but then you look at your bank account and wonder where the money went. You look at your financial statements, but if you're being honest, you're not really sure what to do with the information. And you just tell yourself, if I work harder, it'll fix all my issues, only to feel exhausted and never see things improve. You're here because you want to build your business, but you also want to build a life that you love. I invite you to learn more about one of my 3 coaching programs designed to help you earn more and stress less. You can choose which option works best for you. Imagine this. You have a clear plan and momentum, and you're gaining more clients every week. Your revenue climbs by 20% or more. You save 5 hours a week because you know exactly where to show up. You're experiencing double-digit growth in your profits. People refer customers to your business because they understand exactly who you help and what you do. If this is you and you desire more, reach out, let's have a conversation, and you can click in the show notes below. Hi, Stacy. Welcome to the show today. It's so nice to have you.
Thank you for inviting me.
So I just love Three Little Birds. It's such a cute name, and I'm just excited to hear, as listeners are, to hear about your story. So tell us who you are, what you do, and how long you've been in business.
Okay. My name is Stacy Sloan. I am the founder of Three Little Birds Granola. We're a top 14 allergen-free company. Our products are all clean label, and they all have fewer than 2 grams of added sugar. So we really focus on high quality of ingredients, and health as a primary part of our recipe in a figurative way and in a literal way. I started the business in 2011, very informally as a hobby, and then launched into the K-12 food service segment in 2016, and have been very excited about being a part of that since then. And we're based in Michigan, but now we're expanding to accounts in Texas, California, Illinois, Ohio, and Minnesota.
Wow, that's exciting. So the growth is happening. And I have to tell you, even though they are extremely healthy and, very limited ingredients and sugar, they are delicious. So thank you for sending me a granolagram. I really enjoyed it. I put it on some yogurt. It was this delightful apple flavor, and it was so good. So yes, thank you very much. So you started out as a hobby, which I love because a lot of business owners do. What prompted you to start making granola?
I was working as a chef. That's been my occupation all of this time. And I decided that I probably should be a little bit more serious about the quality of food that I was eating. I went to culinary school right out of high school. So I was 17 when I went through culinary school the first semester. And way back then in 1998, nutrition was not a focus. Allergen friendly was not a focus. And really the nutrition class that they gave us was an 8-week long class that was mostly geared towards people who probably wanted to be a chef or registered dietitian in a healthcare setting like a hospital or assisted living. And so I really thought I should probably figure this out so that I can have a pretty good quality of life as I age into this business, because so many people that had gone before me in the industry who I was friends with, I could see them in their 40s and 50s and feeling like they were just falling apart, that they just did not have a good quality of life. The industry is really, really tough on your body. And so I started trying to learn a little bit about nutrition. One of the things that everybody says is granola is so good for you. So if you want to eat healthy, you should eat granola. And so I started eating granola, and then I started learning about macronutrients, protein, carbs, fat. And I realized this is not that healthy for me. It's basically a ground up cookie in a bag. If I'm going to eat cookies, I'm going to eat chocolate chip cookies or peanut butter cookies. I'm not going to eat oatmeal cookies. So I started making my own, and it was that cliche experience of, company founder makes a cookie or ice cream or hot sauce, a granola in my case, gives it to other people. They say, this is good, you should sell this. And that's how I started.
So much to unpack there. You're right. Back then, nutrition wasn't mainstream. And now, many of us have apps on our phone where we can, count our macros and count all these things that we're doing. And it is really confusing. And especially in today's standard American diet, what is healthy and what is not. And most people, everyone would say, yeah, granola bars, granola, they're healthy. And so I love how you were like, no, I'm going to dive into this a little bit more and create something that truly is healthy. So you started making this delicious granola. All your friends said, ooh, yeah, this is good. I would buy this. So what'd you do next? How did you actually transition into accepting money for selling granola?
I started selling it to chefs that I knew. And this is a long story. I know we don't have a lot of time, but I met a woman who had celiac disease, and I had never heard of celiac disease. And this was in 2011. And I met her, and she said, well, I have celiac and I can't eat almost anything. And I said, I have never heard of that. And so she told me what it was. And she said, but I could eat your granola. And I said, okay. And she said, but this is very serious. Like, people can get sick and die. And I started talking to other chefs about it, and they all thought it was made up. They thought that this was like a celebrity fad, some new, get skinny quick diet. And I said, well, even if it is that, even if this is fake, people are still your customers, and they're still coming in and they're saying that they have this. So maybe you should offer something to them. So they started buying from me, and it was easy for me to sell to chefs because I was a chef. I had them in my network. And so that felt easy for me. And I didn't have any intentions of doing retail at all. And then a colleague that I knew from a long time ago in culinary school reached out to me, and he said, I heard that you were making granola, and I'm the regional district chef for Detroit Public Schools. My boss, Betty Wiggins, is an absolute rock star in child nutrition. She wants to bring in a clean label, better for you product for the kids, and she wants it to be made in Michigan. Do you want to sell to us? And I had no idea what I was doing, but I'm the type of person who will say, yes, I'll do it, and figure it out later. And if it would not have been for this person, his name is Kevin Frank. He is still with Detroit Public Schools. And if it would not have been for him, I would not have a business. We wouldn't be having this conversation. I don't know what I would be doing, but he was a tremendous help for me to start this company.
A lot of times we always say it just takes one. It just takes one client. It just takes one person, just one. And, we're always so focused on the masses. And I love that. This one person, Kevin, came to you. Obviously, it was God sent. It was meant to be. And your product checked all the boxes that they were looking for the Detroit Public Schools. So there must have been this, okay, now what? I have to be, certified, labeled, check all the boxes to sell a food product. They're a government agency. Was there a lot of hurdles, or did Kevin just really kind of walk you through all that?
Both. Yes to both of those things. There were a lot of hurdles. I had to make a new recipe because at that time, what I was making had allergens in it. I was making granola that had pecans, almonds, and coconut. And you can't serve any of that in a school setting. I also didn't know that the USDA writes all of the standards and guidelines for the school breakfast and lunch program across the country. So everyone in a K-12 environment or early childcare needs to be compliant with that, and it's all regulated by the USDA. I did not, I did not know what I was getting into, but he was very helpful to me, and he'd give me a little information, and then I'd go and I'd work on it, and then I'd come back and I'd say, is this right? And he'd say, no, you have to change this, you have to do this, because it all has to be compliant. And so he was very, very helpful to me to learn those little breadcrumbs as I went, just a little piece here and a little piece there. And I was able to put it all together and started selling into K-12. I was such an introvert, though. I never thought of myself as a salesperson, and I was really afraid to call on other school districts. So I didn't tell another school district about it for 3 years.
Oh my goodness, you're kidding me.
No, I didn't do it because I was really afraid of it. I didn't know how to talk to them. I knew how to be a chef and I knew how to talk to other chefs. But when I went from being a chef in a restaurant setting to working with, these people who I consider superheroes with what they do with so little resources and in such a highly regulated environment, I thought, I don't have the right to talk to these people. I haven't earned the right. They're going to know I don't know what I'm talking about. I don't know all the rules, and I'm still learning as I go. And I was really afraid to call on anybody. I finally called on Kalamazoo Public Schools 3 years later.
Maybe you just needed those 3 years to feel validated, and you also had some data. Hindsight's 2020, right? Maybe if you would have gone to Kalamazoo Public Schools sooner, it wouldn't have been a success because you wouldn't have had the data, you wouldn't have had the sales history. And, obviously 3 years is a long time, but I love that. And so how did you get the courage to finally say, okay, it's been 3 years, we're going to start talking to some other school districts?
Well, I figured that if Kevin bought it for 3 years in a row, and this was me having major imposter syndrome. My thought was, well, maybe it is good. I didn't just automatically think it was good. I thought, well, maybe it is good. Maybe somebody else would want this. And so I asked him about it, and he said, yeah, you should call somebody else. And so I knew somebody whose kids went to Kalamazoo Public Schools. And so I said, would you mind introducing me to the food service director? And I remember exactly where I was when I called this woman. I remember what the weather was. I remember everything about it. And I was so afraid. And I thought, oh God, please don't answer the phone. She didn't answer the phone. And then I thought, oh no, now I have to leave a message. And I'm sure I left a really awkward message. And then I thought, oh God, is she going to call me back? She did call me back. And so I just very awkwardly ambled through the entire thing, but they became my second customer.
Looking back, I guess I didn't realize granola was such a need or a want in the school food system, right? Did you? Would you have ever thought that's a staple for feeding kids?
I didn't. It's a whole grain. And so they do have to have that as part of their components. And so, but there's a lot of things out there that are whole grain, and all of them are made by very huge legacy brands like Kellogg and General Mills and all of these other companies. So for a long time, it was a hard sell to go in there and say, well, I know you're using this graham cracker, and I know you're using this waffle, and I know you're using this, or maybe they were using a granola. And to try to get them to change and offer mine for the first several years, it was really difficult because they had no idea who I was. And they didn't know that they were unhappy with what they had.
So a pivotal moment for you was leaving that message for Kalamazoo Food Service Director. She calls you back. You get another win. How many schools are you in today?
63 in Michigan, a handful in Texas, right now 1 in California, 1 in Minnesota, 1 in Chicago.
And lots more on the horizon. And this has all been happening since about 2016 when you kind of really launched, went from hobbyist to full-time business.
Mm-hmm.
Well, congratulations. Look at you, and just look at also your personal growth. That's what I love about entrepreneurship, is it's not only just professional growth and, business strategies, it's personal growth. And the skills that you have learned navigating all of this is carrying you through in all elements of life. So that's what's so cool about entrepreneurship.
It is
So
really fun. It's
do you
exciting.
sell to anybody else or is it only in bulk food service?
Right now, we only do food service. We're going to launch in a Shopify site in the next couple months. So we'll go direct to consumer. That came about because I had parents and people who worked at the schools emailing me and asking where they could buy it because they got it. They were a teacher and during the summer they can't have any because they're not there, or their child goes to school and likes it and brings it home and they want to have it at home. So in response to that, we are going to be rolling out an e-commerce.
Well, I know you had sent me a sample, a granulagram, and that was my first thought is I'd like to get some of this for my granddaughter, and my family. So I love that you are starting there. So you're going to start direct to consumer, probably online shipping. Do you see or have a plan yet for wholesale, getting into retail stores?
I think that'll come, after we sort of get our footing. I try to do things, and maybe this is a mistake, but I try to do things in a very methodical sort of way. So I want to be proving a concept in one area before I go and do something else. And a lot of people have asked me, why isn't this in hospitals and airlines and universities? And it can certainly go there. But when I learned the K-12 model, I wanted to do a good job for the people in that segment. And so I feel the same way about e-commerce. The other thing I was thinking about just prior to our call is I am really so inspired by Bobbi Brown, who built her company as a very successful makeup artist, sold her company. I think she sold to L'Oreal. And then after her non-compete was over, she launched Jones Road. Their products are great. And she's doing all direct to customer. And I do love that model because I think it builds this relationship between you and the customer. But I wouldn't rule out doing retail.
Yeah. Okay. So I have to believe you've got some staff now. You're not doing all this on your own anymore.
6.
6 staff members. And who was the first person you hired? Where did you feel you needed help in your business as you were starting to grow?
A salesperson was the first person.
Okay, to
And
get you out of that role, right? You were avoiding that one as much as you could.
yeah. But then as a result of that, it put me right back in it. So now she and I do this together in a tandem fashion. So, now this thing that I thought I can't do this, I'm not the one to do this. Now I do this, but
And why do you think that happened? How come it wasn't a task that you could completely delegate and be hands-free?
one, I think that the customer likes to know the founder, which a lot of people will say that's not scalable. And I can appreciate that. The other part about it is what I've learned is that there's every person has these strong suits, right? So there's this entire sales methodology that she's really great at, and she knows everybody, and she's got relationships across the entire country. And so she's really great at opening up those doors. And then eventually they want to meet me. And so then it's passed to me. They want, because it's such an unknown brand at this time, it's getting more known, but people want to put a face with like, who is behind this thing that we've never heard of before.
So she's almost kind of in a lead generation role for you,
Mm-hmm.
starting the conversation and then kind of passing the baton on to you, which I really like. When you look back at going to culinary school, they probably didn't really teach you about leading a team, being an owner. What have you found that to be a natural for you, or has that been also a challenge as your business has evolved and grown?
I didn't take a single business class. And at that time, and I can't speak for what it's like now, but at that time, there was not any programming available in culinary school for this. A lot of it, I just had to learn by self-study. I'm really lucky that I grew up in an entrepreneurial family. So my dad is a founder of a company. He started his company when he was 19 with $20 in a motorcycle. So, this fearless person, I just watched him and took lessons away from him and learned as I went. and tried to teach myself, by bringing in as much content as possible. I try to study all the time, best practices and leadership management skills. And you can always do more, you can always be more, but it's all self-taught.
So you were just scrappy with a really good product. And I think that was key too, is you focused on the quality of the product. And then you just, I really like the fact that you said you were methodical about it because a lot of times entrepreneurs can get scattered. They can, I call it the shiny object syndrome or squirrel, and we chase every idea out there. And you really kind of had to have a lot of self-control to just say, you know what, we're just going to do this one step at a time. We're going to research it, analyze it, and see where it goes. I love that about you. Congratulations.
Thank you. It's really hard because, of course, everyone has an opinion. So they'll give you unsolicited advice about your business all the time. And you have to really know who you are and what are you doing and why are you doing it. So for me, I can't tell you the number of people who have tried to hard push me into retail. And I've always greatly resisted that because it's not my area of strength. It's not at this time my area of passion. It's not a segment that I understand. But you'll have these opportunities that will land in your lap, and especially when you're first starting, you just want all the business you can get, any business. Not, it doesn't have to even be qualified. You're just kind of like taking whatever you can get. And that's a really dangerous habit to get into because you can make so many mistakes that way and you make them fast.
So, so true. So looking back on your journey, I love how you said you really have to know who you are and the purpose and the passion and the why behind it. What would you do anything differently, or do you feel like this was the way it was supposed to go?
It was the way it was supposed to go, but if I was going to coach the person that I was back then, I would tell her different things. So I would tell her to start before you're ready. Make yourself do something when you feel like, well, I haven't gotten there yet. And I know that sounds conflicting with what I just talked about with making mistakes by being in the wrong lane, but I waited such a long time to really pursue more accounts. And I did that because I was afraid. That's the bottom line answer, was that I let fear run my company for the first 3 years and probably in some respects longer. And so that's something that I would definitely change.
And you're not alone. Fear is definitely one of the top blocks for entrepreneurs. It's very common. And that's why I always say it's not only the why, it's also the who you surround yourself with that is going to help you succeed. So I love the name. Is there a story behind the name of Three Little Birds?
There is. My dad had a dad who came to the United States from England, and he called my dad, my aunt, and my uncle the Three Little Birds, or you birds. And it was something that my dad just loved talking about. And I remember my aunt used to love talking about that too. I was at one point a certified Dale Carnegie instructor. So I stopped teaching the Dale Carnegie course when I started my company so that I could concentrate on it. What I learned in the very first session of a Dale Carnegie class is that people think they're bad at remembering things. They think they're bad at remembering names. They're not. You need to remember everything as a picture. We can hold on to pictures and images. And so I just thought, okay, I want people to remember my name because there's a million granolas out there and they all look the same. And maybe they even taste pretty similar. And no one's going to know who I am. So I have to differentiate myself with something that they can remember. And so I put those two things together, and that's what I got.
Oh, what a meaningful name. When you told your dad that, do you remember his reaction to it?
He loved it. He loved it. And it's funny because people love the bird, like the artwork that I had drawn. I get so much positive feedback on that. And every time I look at it, and I know I'm biased, but it's so happy. It just makes people smile.
So you are just granola. Is there any plans for more products, or we're going to just kind of go down different, chains to get it out there?
looking at different products and using different regenerative grains from a sustainability standpoint, also from a health standpoint, a variety standpoint. One of the things that I've tried to do since I started was do things that no one else is doing and wait for people to realize that it probably was a good idea to be doing it that way all along. And so I'm certainly not the person who, started anything that's a movement surrounding sustainability or regenerative farming, but certainly in the K-12 space, which is what I'm most passionate about, I want to make sure that we're really acting with utmost responsibility and care and concern with every product that we make.
Oh, very good. So you offer, I noticed on your website, you're offering this granulagram, and it's free to anybody who's like a food service director or dietitian. Tell us a little bit more about that promotion and who would be a good fit for this.
We love to send these out because it gives people a sample, of course, but we also love to hear how people feel when they get it in the mail. So, and maybe you felt this way too, but it was, I hope it made you smile, hope it perked you up and made your day. So we like to send these out as samples and gifts that you could send to somebody who's a food service director in a K-12 district or a hospital or a university, really anybody in food service that you think would benefit from seeing the product, trying the product, and taking a look, finding if it's a good fit for their program. So they can just request it on our website.
Wonderful. So, boy, you really have some really good plans in place. The growth is just going to continue to follow. And I just love your story. It's such a grassroots story. And, so many business owners out there are doing something on the side as a hobby, and you just kind of have to keep putting one foot in front of the other, facing the fears and learning as you go. And you've done all of that. And so you're such an inspiration. So thank you so much for sharing your story. It's really fun, and I'm excited to watch out for you to be, direct to consumer. I'll keep my eyes open for that. And we will definitely put all the links to your website and how people can get that granulagram in the show notes.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Stacy. I don't know about you, but I really appreciated Stacy's transparency in talking about fear. Fear is real, and it's something that I see often with business owners that holds them back. And the joke is that fear is false evidence appearing real. A lot of times we create these scary scenarios in our minds, and that's what stops us from going after any type of growth in our business. Stacy telling us it took her 3 years to pick up the phone and call somebody else, even though she was seeing success. And I'm a big believer that overcoming fear, you need people in your back corner. So don't let fear stop you. If you need someone to cheer you on, reach out. I'd be happy to do that for you. So I really hope you enjoyed this episode. Please share it with somebody you think who can be inspired. And until next time, keep promoting and shopping local.